Hello, sweet friend. My name is Maike, and as you can see, I have two journals here, and both of them have finished line art ready to be colored, and I thought we could do that together. One is going to get the full watercolor treatment, and the other one is going to be colored with a single marker, and we're going to have a chat about the differences between working with watercolor versus marker in your journals and the different effects that you can create with either one of these. And yeah, let's see how these turn out. And how about we start with this journal right here, which is my point of view journal. And for the whole book, I have been committing to the restriction of using one ink color with a single marker. And in terms of this spread right here, I shortlisted three marker colors, and I swatched them out right here because this is the kind of the first point of making decisions really when it comes to this kind of look or effect. It is quite more graphic when you do the two-tone illustrations, and maybe I'll zoom you in a little further too, like this. And this is a dark green ink color that I mixed myself with Diatramentis document inks. And in terms of the markers, we could go for a softer look and do a monotone green with green, which would be nice. And this is more of like a sagey green. But then I thought, I'm so in a spring mood, maybe we could do something with a little bit more contrast and a little bit of freshness to it. So I think dark green and lavender look really, really nice. And so it would still have some of that softness that the tone in tone would have, but just with a little bit more of an edge. And then the most dramatic choice would be this, it's kind of a orange pink color, and it comes off more orange on camera than it is in real life. This Tombow is actually, it's a little bit more like the cap maybe even. And because it is leaning so orangey pink, it is almost a complement to the green. And so that is obviously more dramatic than either of the previous choices. I already ruled out this soft blue. So yeah, this is really kind of the thing when you have just two colors you're working with. You really set the tone for the whole spread, and you really can't change how dramatic the overall look and feel is. And so let's go with the lavender. I think that's gonna be nice. And if you've seen some of my previous journal with me videos, I've been talking quite a bit about how I think of where I apply the colors. In terms of what markers I choose, what marker colors, I favor lighter colors because I want the ink to be the darkest one. So these stripes right here are supposed to be the blinds. And so maybe I want to frame her face. Well, not her face, my face is supposed to be me. Even though I do not have purple hair, but I think that's going to be nice. So I set myself these restrictions of the ink color with the marker as a way to save myself some time, because I want to be drawing in this daily, and sometimes I have to catch up a couple days when I get too busy to do it on the day. And so I felt like committing to full color was maybe taking too much time. And so this is obviously a lot quicker to do. The only thing I'm deciding really is where the values go, rather than making choices about colors or actual shades of color. It's almost more of a tonal exercise in a way, and that is definitely true. And I feel like the overall look is a lot more dramatic, a lot more graphic maybe in a way. because it is so limited and less lifelike, if you know what I mean. And maybe we give the bedding a little bit of almost like a pattern. That's definitely something that's been fun, like playing around. How can I change up, not just like fill in spaces, but how can I maybe introduce some patterns or other textures to play along with the flatness of most of my illustrations? And how else can I create different values? Even though I'm only doing 2 colors in this, you can still change up the value by, for example, doing bigger spaced patterns or really tight patterns. And that's has been really fun. Yeah. Do I want to color in the lamp to separate her hair from the lamp? I think so. On the other hand, I really love colors. I love how color can create a mood and all the softness and the blending in with each other. And so you're obviously missing out on that a little bit. Like sometimes I don't want the sort of graphicness of this kind of setup. But yeah, overall, I think for this journal, the time-saving aspect of this is really important. And so far, it has definitely worked in my favor, I would say. Plus, there is also a consideration to be made when you have the whole year in one book. Watercolor does tend to warp the paper, especially in these kinds of journals. And so this would get really fluffy really quickly, and that can be a little bit, well, I don't know if it's frustrating. Yeah, a little bit frustrating though, if we're honest with ourselves, to work with that fluff by the end of the year. And I think I'm deciding to also color the floor here. I'm not sure if I'm gonna like this, but I feel like the couch feels like it's floating a little bit, which is a little bit due to the fact that I think I should have drawn it lower, but again, I'm trying not to be too fussy with these drawings because, again, doing one a day. And so I'm just going to indicate that there's something in the frame. Not sure, that's not what it looks like in our living room, but yeah. Yeah, so I allow myself a little bit of wiggle room in terms of doing pencil drawings underneath these, but yeah, trying to keep the perfectionism at bay a little bit as much as possible. So here, let's see, we have the computer. I had FaceTime with my brother and his girlfriend, and we have the lamp and her sweater. Maybe we do the hair again. Of course, if you go with something like the purple, it not only reads as a value, but you could think that I have purple hair, and that obviously is less the case when you use more of a neutral, like a brown or beige. And so, yeah, that's interesting to play with, sort of the difference in the marker colors themselves, and how far do you want to push the ink color and the marker color away or together. And I feel like I've tried, yeah, and I'm not done with this one yet, but here I even introduced a second color, and that was kind of fun. I don't know if I would do that all the time. I felt like I had used another marker at some point where I felt like maybe I had pushed it too far away from the ink color. Doesn't seem like it. This one I love. This is really fun, but anyway. Maybe we can give my brother a purple sweater and his girlfriend purple hair. I think that looks good. Yeah. So I hope you're getting something out of this. Me talking about values and markers and sort of the graphic nature of this. But I think overall I love colors too much that I would want to do this style all the time, even in my other journals or even in my sketchbooks. Yeah, but it is quick, and it sharpens your eye for values, and there's lots to play around with in terms of mark making and pattern making, controlling that. Where do you put the emphasis? I'm a lot more in tune, or I'm a lot more aware of what I'm emphasizing versus not emphasizing. That can be sometimes a little bit more subtle when you're working with lots and lots of watercolor. But speaking of, let's just get into the watercolor and see for ourselves what that is like. So this is the, I think I've said, yeah, the Midori One Day One Page, which has the glorious Midori paper, my favorite. And on this day, I found a shirt at Goodwill, and it has this wonderful coral color. So obviously, if you're working with watercolors, you can just mix any color you want. You're not restricted by the color choices of your markers, the particular markers that you have at hand. And with certain things such as clothing, you can really just customize it to your real world experience, or your real world thing that you're depicting. That was very eloquent, yeah. real world thing. And well, yeah, I think mine was actually maybe a little bit darker, although it's now way too purple. I think the first one was actually better, but no problem. We can just mix that again. Like so. That's gonna be fine. And I never strive for uber realism. All my drawings are somewhat simplified and stylized, so some of you might look at this flat application of the color and go, yeah, you could just do that with a marker. Who cares if the color isn't quite the one that you wanted? But I like mixing colors. I like seeing how close can I get the color. I like seeing the mixes that I can come up with. And it's not just about the end result, but it's just as much about the pleasure of mixing the colors and what comes out of the mixes, and how good is my eye, and how good is my knowledge of not just mixing colors in general, but mixing with my specific pigments that are in my palette. And so that's just fun and soothing for me. And I feel like I say it quite a bit, that journaling or drawing, and also it's not just about the outcome, but it's about the joy of slowing down and really focusing in on what you're doing on paper, the analog tools and the things. And so I do think there is something that is slower about watercolor, and I don't mean the time the paint needs to dry, but really just the mixing your color and deciding the color and applying it. It just takes longer. Marker is just inherently quicker, and so that can be obviously a benefit if you have less time, or in the case with my one day one or not one day one page, this is the one day one page, but the daily aspect of a little drawing, then yeah, I want the time-saving aspect of it. But in cases like this, I just enjoy being able to really try and mix the colors and make them work. And let's see, let's take like an indigo with one of the browns to make like a gray, dark gray for the shoes. Like so. Now, of course, for watercolor, you need paper that can withstand all that water. Most papers will handle markers pretty well. So, you're maybe more restricted with watercolor paint in terms of what notebooks you can use for your journals. I really need to clean parts of my palette. I think I'm running a little bit out of space, but on the way back from Goodwill, a new snowstorm came through, and so I was very much paying attention to the road and was very concerned about the snow coming down, and so I was glad to make it home as quickly as possible. And so I'm just gonna take this lavender color. I wonder what happens if we push this a little greener. Mix some of this palette dirt into it. That's the other thing too about watercolor, is that there is maybe more room for happy accidents or serendipitous finds like this, where there was some more green on the palette and I'm now playing around with mixing that with the lavender purple color that I would have just sort of taken as is. But yeah, that's really fun. Another thing that you don't really necessarily get with markers, because also markers don't shift color, right? They are just dependable in always being the same color they always are, right? But here you just get endless variety, and some things might surprise you and might inspire you for other things going down the road. And so there's a little bit of, oh, I touched the shoe. There's maybe like a little bit more of an expansive quality to it. Or here too, like there was a little bit of a beigey ochre brown in it, and now I had this pink sitting here, and I thought, well, maybe I push this into more of a pinkish color. And our car actually is it almost has like a copper rose gold tone, which is a little hard to capture, but maybe this is a good representation, and so that's kind of fun. And maybe I should have let this snow dry a little bit more. We might have to go over some of these with another layer maybe. And you know what, actually we can use that. My hair sometimes is a bit of a strawberry blonde, so we can add that right there. And I know I said that watercolor can feel like it invites you to take your time, but it's still a pretty quick thing, right? This is not taking long at all. And you can do huge swaths of color. You don't even have to stay within the drawing, right? It can sometimes be fun to just, paint the whole area one color and be really dramatic with it. That can be cool too, and something that would maybe look more streaky with a marker, and maybe doesn't quite have the softness. Yeah, something like that maybe. I don't often draw paint cars, and I look really, really tiny in it, which, I'm shrinking down in fear. No, it wasn't that bad, but I don't often drive in snow, and so I wonder if we want to pull this snow color up a little bit. Yeah, like I said, it's a lot easier to do big areas of color with watercolor. Yeah, what do you think? Maybe we can give her hair one more coat of a similar color like the car. And now, of course, we could still go over this with the markers or colored pencils for like a mixed media kind of thing, but I quite like how that looks, and it still goes with the opposite page. Another benefit maybe to watercolors that you can really easily shift you know, your colors to go with something that's already on the page. Yeah, that's quite nice. What do you think? I think it is very cute, and it is very, very wet, but the Midori paper really takes it like a champ. I was thinking we could also take a look at this one, because this is kind of what I was just talking about in terms of bigger areas, and that there's just a softness in watercolors for that thing, for these kind of applications. It can be a little, you can be, yeah, I don't even know if you want to call it abstract, but you can have fun with blending colors together and just really let the color do most of the work, which is kind of fun. Like so. Because the thing about, I've been recently really into listening to an audiobook while I try to fall asleep, even though the thing to emphasize there is the try, because I found that sometimes I stay up longer because I want to hear what happens next. I don't know, maybe I'll take it all the way to the edge there. So I have to be a little careful with that. But there's something so fun about being surrounded by the darkness of the bedroom, and just being really able to focus on the story and the characters, and especially if the narration is done well. It's just, you're so transported. And so to be able to fill this with these soft colors is really, it's easier with watercolor to create a feeling or a mood where it's not even about just filling in the little, you know, areas of color. And like, I get it, we could do some of this with markers, especially with markers, water-based markers, where you can blend them out with water, but it's still not quite the same, right? Yeah, and so this of course has to dry now, but we can go maybe one more layer and carve her out. That might be fun. And then for her hair, or my hair, like I said, I'm usually a strawberry blonde, but we would want to kind of do something a little darker, because it is obviously at nighttime. Blend this with a blue, maybe. Make it a little duller. And see, so easily I can make the colors do what I want them to do. Obviously that's a little tougher to do with markers. I guess you could layer them maybe to change their colors, but really, like, there are the colors that they are, right? And maybe we can introduce that into this wheat that is part of the cover for this Yeah, like so. We might put something a little bit more pure on there too. Like so. Again, not really interested in being super precise. Yeah, all right. Well, we're gonna let that dry, and I think maybe we'll do one more layer together. Okay, I think this is dry enough for a second layer. And something that I realized while this was drying is that maybe this variety in the color can also be intimidating. So that might also be a downside, where if you're a beginner and you're just starting out to want to play around with more creative ways of expressing yourselves in your journals, then a marker or a couple markers is great, because you can still play around with different color palettes, right? You can combine more than one ink color in one marker. You can set up limited color palettes and just see what colors do you like together, right? And so there's obviously something to be said about that. And because the colors stay the same, you can really find a couple go-to combinations of markers and just rinse and repeat. And you can even pay attention to, well, how does the look of an illustration change? Just simply by, you're still using the same colors, but you're giving them different portions of the palette. Like, for example, you do 50% purple and only 20% green, and maybe, I don't know, something else. But then sometime else you do 50% green and only 20% purple and something else, that kind of idea. You can play around with and just get more accustomed to what color combinations do you like and things like that before you go into something like watercolor, where you also have to mix your colors and it potentially turns out differently every time, those kinds of things. And so let's add some actual like yellow to this, maybe not, maybe that was a little super strength here. Oh well, it pops nicely. So the cover is actually really, really dark, which I don't think I want to do. I might just leave that white. And what about the PJs? Do we do something with pink? What if we use that pink that we used for the shirt on the other page and mix it with this lavender color? Because the lavender is already in the background. This color right here, I already used that for the background, so that is probably gonna be harmonious just by the fact that we're using the same color, we're just mixing it with something else. Yeah. And then that lavender is a little bit, I think it has like a white pigment in it or something. It's a little bit more chalky. And I think it would be fun to go in and maybe give the bedspread and the pillow maybe a pattern. I'm losing my words there. And you're probably able to tell that I unfortunately smudged her eyes. I didn't wait long enough. This was drawn with Kakimori Mercury, which is a pigment ink, and it is waterproof. It just takes a lot longer to dry than the Diatramentis that I'm used to. And so I found that I'm much more likely to smudge my lines with the Kakimori ink because, it takes so long, surprisingly longer to dry. And so in places where there's a lot of ink, like for example the eyes, when I go over to erase my pencil lines, it happens quite a bit that I, smudge things, which, it's a bit unfortunate, but what can you do? All right, let's do these stars. Okay, and then maybe we bring in like some of this blue, maybe a little bit of this. Oh yeah, like a darker version of what she has as her pajamas. Let's just do a simple checker. This is my go-to if I want an easy pattern that easily fills a large area. Yeah, I really like how it feels like the world is falling away and everything, like I'm just concentrating on the audiobook, because really that is what that has felt like recently. I think maybe the hair is maybe a little colorless, but it's okay. Yeah, I think I'll leave it at that for this page. I think there's quite enough water on here, but yeah, I don't want to be too fussy with this. Yeah, and then this is already dry. Really like the color palette that I came up with here and how that goes together so well. Wonderful, wonderful. Having chatted with you about this, I realized that for me, it often comes down to time. Do I have the time to commit to really immersing myself with the medium such as watercolor and get exactly what I want in terms of the color mixing or in terms of the emotion that I'm trying to convey, then I'm gonna go for the watercolor. But if I want to be a little bit more concise and to the point and keep up a rhythm, then markers are great for their I don't know, dependability in terms of giving you the result that they're always giving you. But you can still have fun with setting up color palettes, maybe even limited color palettes. It's so great, and really getting to know what you like in that aspect. So yeah, in the comments, let me know, what is your preferred medium, watercolor or markers, or are you like me where it just depends on the day and what you're trying to create? I would love to hear about it. And also let me know if you have any further questions or would like to hear me chat about certain aspects a little bit more. I hope this wasn't too wafty. I love journaling, I love colors, and I just love exploring how tools can impact the way we express ourselves and what we express, right? A medium can also be an invitation to explore certain aspects that we would otherwise not maybe include in our journals. So yeah, thank you as always for being here, and until next time, happy journaling.